The whole of Britain knows you in your professional comic mask, and tonight we want to try and find out what lies behind the mask. Now, are you in the mood to come clean?
Yes, indeed.
You know you're on your own, you're without your
Yes.
scriptwriters.
Yes.
And you'll tell us the truth.
I'll try to.
Do you like talking about yourself or not?
Yes, up to a point, particularly in relation to what I do.
Well,
in
then in that
relation to
case...
comedy, yes.
All right, then I'll ask you first of all, why are you a comic?
Well, I think I always certainly wanted to be from the first time I can remember. And perhaps looking like this, it was perhaps the only thing I could do. So I turned the sort of deficiencies into a workable thing, if you understand what I mean.
Yes, but let's go a bit deeper than that. Do you think the world is a comic place or is it a tragic place?
Well, I think it consists of the two things. It's both funny and sad, which seem to me to be the two basic ingredients of good comedy.
Basic ingredients. What is being funny? Is it mixing them together? How do you tell
Well, I
what
think
is
they
funny?
exist together anyway.
Yes.
By the way we live. When we attempt to be affected or pompous or, how can I say, we are sort of all unsure of ourselves and what we live in. We try to live in a certain way. We are, I suppose, to a certain extent, all affected, and that is both funny and sad, I think.
So that being funny is showing how people are affected. Is that what you're trying to say?
I think so. I think you explode your own pomposity and other people's and get probably to the real truth of the way you live.
And so that being funny is part of the business of finding out the truth about life.
Entirely.
Yes.
You can't think of it in any other way.
Now, your own comedy character, the one we know in
Yes.
Hancock's Hancock,
Yes.
swagger, bluster, and then not being very effectual in the end. Is that right?
I don't think you can sort of really theorize entirely about these things. As I say, this is all sort of part of what you are and part of what everybody else is. It's a comment on yourself and a comment on everybody else, I think.
Well, how much is it a comment on yourself?
Oh, to a great extent, to a great extent. I mean, shall we say the character that, it isn't a character that I play, that I put on and off like a coat. It is greatly a part of me and a part of everybody else that I see.
Are you trying to say with it something which is serious? Is there a message, or are you simply trying to make people laugh?
Not exactly a message. I think if you go to that extent, I think perhaps you lose the intuitive thing, which is bad. No, I think it's just a true observation of the way things are, as far as you can see it yourself.
Looking at yourself as a comic, after all, in the television and film era, you've seen yourself as a comic
Yes.
very often, which many of the great comics didn't.
Yes.
What is there about you think that makes people laugh?
Well, it's difficult to say. I don't think I can be really objective about that. I think I know where my own mistakes are as I make them. I don't think I gain anything by seeing myself.
Is it facial expression? Is it good script writers? Is it a sense of timing? Is it a knowledge of what constitutes comedy? You must have some idea.
It's a knowledge of what constitutes living in general, I think. As I say, you take the weaknesses of your own character and of other people's characters, and you exploit them, you show yourself up and you show them up.
Now, it's often been said about you, I don't know whether you think this is true or not, that one thing that you do in your comedy is to ridicule the things that you dislike in life. Is that true?
Yes, that also applies to the things you dislike in yourself.
All right, well, now, what are they?
Oh, I think a certain affectation. I mean, I know, for instance, I often find in a script things that I've said in all seriousness, which they later write up in detail and absolutely, which later turn out to be funny. If I've been angry or something like that, and I look at this and I think, yes, that's very funny, unfortunately.
Yes.
It's something that I'd said at the time and been rather pompous about, and they have noticed this and written it down. There it is.
This is an example of debunking yourself. Now, how
Yes.
much do you try and debunk other people as well?
Oh, well, you do that, shall we say, generously. Yes, you do. You debunk pomposity, affectation.
What are the things? Can you tell me that there are particular things in the world that you know you dislike? Personal characteristics, first of all. Is it pomposity that you're after?
You don't dislike them, you accept them.
But you also...
I mean, you're tolerant towards them.
But these are what you'd like to pillory, if you could.
Yes, as I say, both in yourself and in everything that you see.
Pomposity is the first one. Anything else? Bad temper, greed?
All those things, yes, I think.
And in the world, apart from people in the world outside, what would you most like to reform about the world if you had the chance?
I'm not capable of doing that.
Oh, don't you have dreams about it?
No. You just observe and practice within the limitations of your own talent what you see around you.
You've never dreamed of playing Hamlet?
No. I don't think it's for me, really.
You must have, and indeed I believe you have in fact, got quite a lot of personal opinions all the same. Let's just take some of them. Have you got any religious views?
No, I have no religion now.
That means that you're not interested, or that
I'm
you're...
deeply interested, and so we say I'm trying to find a faith, but I've had to throw away the initial faith that I was brought up in, and therefore am now starting again from scratch.
Well, now, what were you brought up in?
The Church of England.
I see. And you've thrown that away. Does that mean you don't believe in God any longer, or might you adopt some other Christian religion?
I'm completely, as I say, this has been eliminated now. This I no longer believe in. So therefore, I have to have an open mind and look for something else.
Can you recall any moment in your life when this particular God failed you?
I think, no, not. It was a thing I think that I began to see perhaps when I was about 15 or 16. I think I was fairly deeply Christian before that. And it just failed. Was no longer believable.
Do you find yourself answerable in your moral judgments to anybody except yourself?
No, I think actually it is a strong. You are more moral, because it is true to say of morality surely that it is without reward, or should be without reward. It must be purely and simply moral and for no reason.
Yes, but then you must have some standard of judgment. Do you judge by anything except your own built-in conscience?
No, your own experience, I suppose.
Yes. What about politics? Any political beliefs?
Then again, unformed, I would say, at the moment. No, not really. Not to a sort of any sort of particular affiliation.
Are you interested in the sort of lives that ordinary people have? Do you try and...
Indeed, I think any actor, that is the raw material. That's where you draw from. That is the whole of it.
Do you find that as great success has come to you, you've become separated from ordinary people?
No. Even more, I'm completely in love with my own profession, if you can call it that. And the people are, as I say, the people that you observe. You find more tolerance towards them, and they are what you get your inspiration is too big a word, but what you get your as I say, your work from.
Most actors, you know, I think are in love with their own profession, but you now have reached a level. It's said of you, and I suppose it's true, that you earn something like 35,000 a year.
I don't.
Well, you can deny that if you like, but I bet you earn not far short of that.
Well, I don't actually, because I don't work very much. I work for short times, very hard, and then I don't work at all because I need to think. And I'm also trying to educate myself, so I don't make a lot of money, or not all that much money, because I take a long time off to think and prepare for what I want to do in the future, you see.
Well, I don't want to stay on this too long, but while we are on it, do you deny the story, which has often been published and which I don't think you've denied before, that you're getting about 30,000 a year from the BBC?
Yes, I deny it.
All right, well,
just about.
Just about?
Yes.
All right, well, we'll leave it at that. Now, tell me then a bit, you say that you still have contact with ordinary people, and I want to ask you a bit how you do live. Do you live, for instance, town or country?
In the country. I have a house in the country.
And some kind of flat in London or not?
I usually take a flat for the time that the series is on because of travel and that sort of thing, and when the pressure is on, I find that I need to.
But your normal home is in England, in the country?
Yes.
Now, you do go abroad a lot, don't you?
Yes.
Why?
Well, I find that, shall we say that the only use I have for money really is to travel and to have the luxury of independence, to choose what work I do, and to read and to learn, and therefore to put back into my own profession a little more, shall we say. I mean, the two things go together. You must, the more you expand as an individual, the more you see, the more you read, the more you learn, the more you have to offer.
Well, let's talk for a moment about travel. What sort of travel? Do you travel rough, in unexplored countries?
Yes.
Or...
Oh, no, not so much that. I love France.
Yes.
I find it very relaxing, and I relax there better than anywhere, I think.
Why?
Well, partly because of the licensing laws, I think, but halfway, really. You can, shall we say, you go to Paris. People say, you go to Paris. Why do you go to Paris to rest? Well, I do rest there, because you can go to sleep 6 hours in the afternoon, you can get up and go out all night if you want to.
And, of course, you're not known?
No, not at all.
Have you ever, in fact, performed in Paris?
Never.
No. Would you like to?
Very much.
How good is your French?
Pretty bad.
Could you do a show in French?
No, not really. One could do a sort of a, the Lido thing, something like that, where you talk half in French, little bits and pieces, and but not truly, no. But I hope to learn French enough to be able to do that.
Well, let's go on about your life. What sort of relaxations and hobbies? Now, for instance, you spoke a moment ago about reading.
Yes.
You read a lot?
Yes, I do now.
What sort of stuff?
I read history, philosophy, and all the things that come off it, naturally.
Now, I wonder, is this a recognition that perhaps earlier in your life you didn't do all this reading? You were trying to catch up?
Oh, yes, indeed. it seemed as if for the first 30 years, my eyes were closed, and then I became interested and found a real thirst for knowledge. And now, fortunately, have the opportunity to put right this lack of education.
Can you give me is there any memory in your mind of a turning point about this? Do you remember something which happened which suddenly opened your eyes? Or a person even?
I think it's a very simple example, I suppose. I read the Wells outline of history. It was simple, maybe, but it put the thing into perspective. It puts you into an entirely different position. If you understand, viewing your own sort of ego and personality in terms of this vast time. And that's really started me reading many other things.
And you've gone much more deeply into it since then. Is Wells still a hero?
Oh, indeed. I think it was a tremendous attempt to cover such an enormous thing in one volume, which he seems to do very, very well.
Do you read The Psychologists at all?
Yes, I do, but only sort of outlines at the moment, because I need to read introductions. No, I can't start like that.
But this is a real notion in your life that you'd like to read more and you'd like to go further into these things.
Oh, I must. As I say, I'm entirely interested in comedy. This is so much part of it. It is the sort of raw material. It is absolutely necessary.
Now, turning to the rather lighter side of reading, just tell me by name, what daily newspapers do you read?
Practically all, I'd say. I think it's absolutely necessary.
Yes.
As I also think it's necessary to watch nearly all television, for instance.
Good Lord.
I mean, yes, I know, it's hard to bear, isn't it? No, I think it is because you otherwise, shall we say, if you want to see something that needs burlesquing, or you want something that we want to have a go at, maybe, then you have to see it all.
Do you read the criticisms about yourself?
Reluctantly, yes.
Do they hurt?
Yes, they do, actually. I try and eliminate that, but it's not possible.
Do you find that the newspaper critics are to be taken seriously? Do you really think about the points they make?
Well, as a matter of fact, I think you think about the point that anybody makes. I mean, it would be nice to say you were beyond that, maybe, but you never are.
You've got an awful lot of money now. We won't argue about how much. What do you spend it on? Motor cars?
Yes, up to a point. My wife actually drives. She is the enthusiastic driver. I gave it up some time ago.
Why?
I wasn't any good at it.
Was that proved to you by physically or...?
It was physically, yes.
In circumstances which brought you to court or not?
No, actually, it was... there was an accident, and that was the end. But actually, I never had any idea of it, really.
Do you spend money... I know it's difficult to answer this question, but try. Do you spend money extravagantly or not?
I suppose so. Sometimes, yes. It depends. It depends what sort of relaxation you need to find, but always it's with an end in view.
What are your extravagancies?
Well, I like staying in big hotels in a suite occasionally for a couple of days. That sort of thing, or to travel, or to travel in considerable luxury, maybe. That's about all.
Do you have, for instance, you live in the country. Whereabouts in the country now?
Lingfield.
Lingfield. Do you have a lot of friends in that neighbourhood?
Not really. We haven't been there very long, but we bring friends down to the house. One of the most interesting things, the best things about the house is a valuable thing to me, because it means that we can talk down there. I can have people down there, and I find that the biggest relaxation I can have is to talk with people that I like, people probably about this business, maybe all the things that come off it, and we talk, long and into the morning, and it's a relaxation. Also, ideas spring from that.
Are these showbiz friends or friends who've been with you all your life?
Well, yes, they are. To a certain extent, you say they're show business people, but most of the show business people I know are not sheerly interested in that. They are particularly interested in... Well, there are so many things that come off it. Perhaps we talk about the show for about 10% of the time.
Yes. Now, very intimately, you say talking far into the night. Do you, as a matter of fact, sleep well when you go to bed?
No.
Do you take sleeping pills?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you sleep, do you think?
Well, I think that in these days of the challenge of this particular medium, anyway, your mind works high, quick, you are permanently on an edge, and a good one, I think, and therefore it is difficult to relax while a thing is on, while a show is on. But, no, generally not particularly well.
It's said about you that you worry a lot about your weight. Is that true?
Well, I've got it more or less sorted out now. Well, within reason. If I can, you know, I was about 2.5 stone heavier than this at one time.
Do you follow stringent diets and all the rest of it to keep your weight down?
Shall we say for a time I do, and then I after a show is over, after a series is over, for instance, I do anything or whatever I want, and then I pull right down.
Why do you worry so much? A funny man can be fat perfectly well without...
I think it makes you sluggish generally. Your mind is sluggish, and I think it's a bad thing, really.
You haven't got any children, have you?
No.
Would you like to have?
No.
Why not, I wonder?
I don't know. I think that... I don't know, really.
Do you have anything against children flipping kids?
No, nothing at all. No.
Flipping kids doesn't represent any antipathy to
No,
children.
none at all, none at all. No, I love other people's children.
Did you have on the whole, a happy childhood yourself? Do you look back on it with pleasure?
I think perhaps the earlier part, yes.
Your father, one reads about you, was a pub keeper. Now, I don't know what that means. Was it a little working-class pub, or was it a posh hotel, or what?
Well, actually, he was rather like me in a way. He had a lot of moods. He did all sorts of things. He was a laundry owner, a pub keeper, a hotel keeper, a boxing referee, all sorts. Also a semi-pro comedian.
But pretty well off, I should think, from what you've just said.
Oh, no, he fluctuated a great deal.
Ah, you were, I see. You were up now. Do you reckon that you were in Birmingham this year?
No, they left Birmingham when I was 3 years old. We left Birmingham for his health. He went to live in Bournemouth.
In Bournemouth.
Yes.
Now, would you say you were middle class or working class?
I said sort of lower middle, I should think.
Lower middle, yes. Do you remember that with pleasure? Did you like the life in a hotel, for instance?
No, it's a bit impersonal, really. They were much too busy to really spend a great deal of time with us. And actually, anyway, he died when I was about 11 years old, so I didn't see all that much of him.
No. You say with us, you're not an only child.
No, there were three. My elder brother was killed during the war. I have another brother, younger brother.
Yes. You were given, perhaps I can say this, slightly unexpected names, Anthony, Aloysius, St. John. Any special family reason for that?
Well, they're not true. Those are created by the scriptwriter.
Those are entirely created. What is your real name, then?
Anthony John Hancock.
Anthony John Hancock. Did you, in extreme childhood, think well of yourself? Were you sort of independent and brash, or were you an introverted little boy?
No, I was pretty much an extrovert till about the age of about 14, I think, and then it sort of packed up.
Do you know why?
I've no idea.
What clear memories do you have of your mother?
Oh, well, I'm...
At that age, I know she's still alive, but in your childhood?
Oh, one of deep affection. What do you mean, what...
Yes, I wonder if you've got any early and vivid memory that's stuck in your mind through the years.
Not really. The memory of best of it really is the encouragement she gave me to do what I wanted to do, though I showed no sign at all of being able to do it initially.
And yet this was really following your father.
Yes, I think in many ways it was a deep thing with me to try and justify, because I believe he was pretty good.
You went to a public school now. Was this a natural thing to do? Were you among people of your own sort of type and class there, or were you
I would say not, no. They considered it was that they tried to give me the best education that they possibly could, which I think was a fine thing for them to do, because neither of them had an education really, you know, and I didn't want it. I felt it was making the thing too much in a mould.
Now, wait a minute. At the age of 14, you can't have thought it was making you too much.
Yes, I did. Most definitely. And I left there myself, and it was one of the best decisions I made, I think.
I was going to ask you, you left at 16, didn't you?
15.
Why did you leave then exactly?
I wanted to get into the theatre. I say I'd shown no particular sign of ability at that time, but I felt that I could do it somehow. I don't know why, really. And, well, it more or less... I went to a technical college, learned shorthand, typing, did a few sort of odd jobs for a short time. And then, when the war started, I went into troop entertainment.
You, in fact, went into the RAF, presumably as an ordinary Irk, and then drifted into entertainment. Is that correct?
No, I was doing it before.
Ah, yes.
Yes, when I was about 16, 17.
But your first professional experience was with, what, ENSA, or...?
First professional experience wasn't really till after the war. 1947.
But you had a good deal of experience of entertaining on a fairly large scale, even if not professionally, while you were in the RAF.
Oh, yes, because I went into the gang show, the Ralph Reeder's gang
yes.
show, and it was a great experience for all of us, really, because we played in all sorts of circumstances, ships in caves, you know, on backs of lorries and everything, and we did a lot of things that we weren't able to do. I mean, there were only 11 men in the company, and everybody had to do things. You made about 14 appearances in the show, you see, and although you did a lot of things that you weren't really suited to do, it somehow opened it up a little more, and you saw possibilities of expanding in a way that you hadn't thought of before.
Now, when you were demobbed, did you go pretty quickly into professional showbiz?
No, not really. There were quite long periods of nothing, and...
Well, what happened? Tell us what nothing means.
I came out of the Air Force in November 1946. And there was the gratuity, of course. That lasted about 3 weeks. Then there was sort of certain loans and bits and pieces. Then I got a first job about, I think, about May 1947.
And what was that job?
That was in a thing called Wings. That was the first professional show that I did. That was again with Ralph Reeder, but it lasted, it was on tour for several weeks, but then again there was another nasty gap. And I was living in a room in Barons Court and eating a particularly horrible brand of sausage, which at least was filling and sort of kept me going, that sort of thing. But no, there was quite a long time before it really began to take any shape, or that you could say that you were earning a living out of it.
Well, now, when did you earn a living?
I should say from about 1948 onwards.
And how did it start?
At the Windmill, really.
At the Windmill in London?
Yes.
A rather specialised form of entertainment. You didn't strip, presumably, did you?
No, fortunately not. No, it's a marvellous place, really, to run in an act. We did 6 shows a day for 6 days a week, and you learnt to die like a swan, you know, gracefully. I mean, I used to go on, the show used to start at 12:15, I used to go on at 12:19 to 3 rows of gentlemen reading newspapers, and nothing, you see, absolutely nothing. But you learnt to die with a smile on your face, you see, and walk off. And you came back again at 2 o'clock to the same people. And you died again, you see. But it was a very great experience. I didn't enjoy it at the time, but it's been a great benefit afterwards.
Did you ever succeed in making them put their newspapers down before you finished?
No, but I tell you what, well, the best thing was the drunks used to come in about 3:20 when the pubs were closed, and they were quite lively, you know, so it made the day go.
And then after the Windmill, then radio came.
Yes.
And you pretty rapidly became a national figure.
No, then again, there were quite long gaps between this. There were a lot of summer seasons and things which were valuable experience to me during this time, and only a few broadcasts.
I noticed looking through what's been published about your career that there's a bit of obscurity about this, but it seems as if 3 times in recent years you've had some sort of a breakdown in health. Is this true? Is your health a bit ropey?
Oh, no, I don't think so. This is mainly from the Adelphi. This stems from one occasion at the Adelphi. I was there for, I went in as a replacement, and I went in too quickly, and the act that I had wasn't particularly good, and we were doing twice a night, and the show ran for 2 years, and the act was a little dodgy, shall we say, and if I didn't work absolutely to pitch every performance, it didn't go very well, so I had to force myself into this position. And eventually it just sort of wore me out, and I went off for a month, that's all.
You never had any experience of this kind at the Windmill. It was the particular circumstances of this show which...
The Windmill was too quick, you know. You sort of on and off and on and off and off. It was different. And it wasn't doing the same thing, you see, over and over again for 2 years. It's a long time, twice a night.
Ah, now you like the change all the time.
I love it, yes.
This is perhaps why you've specialised in radio and TV.
It is entirely, because now I think I would hate to do a show like that anymore. I like the challenge of new material every week.
Yes. Now, did you in fact have a health breakdown earlier, well, last autumn or not?
That was purely and simply there is a thing that sometimes happens in this business. I have a lot of dialogue to learn every week, and sometimes if you get onto the sort of vicious circle of getting too tired to learn, and then not sleeping because you're worried that you're not learning, you eventually come down to this, and I had a week off and a sort of sleep, and it was all right again.
It's often said of you, and I think my own observations for what they're worth bear this out, that you don't find it very easy to incorporate women in your act. There have been some exceptions, Hattie Jakes, for instance, but on the whole, yes, you have had difficulty. Now, why? Is this something to do with your own brand of comedy?
No, I don't think so. I think that you can only Hattie is fine because she plays a sort of a comic character anyway, but a sort of straight love interest with the character that I play is virtually impossible.
Why?
Well, it seems so to me, you know. I mean, you can't really get romantic about the sort of gentleman in the Homburg hat and the fur collar, surely. It just doesn't apply.
Are you absolutely stuck to this character now? Do you see it modifying and developing at all?
Oh, yes, I think so, definitely. There are certain things I'd like to get away from now, really. They're difficult to talk about and impossible to talk about, really. But gradually you do pull away from... you try and throw away the rubbish. I mean, it accumulates all the time, and you try and throw it away and come down to what is really your own personality. In other words, you spend most of the time discarding, not gathering.
And this is a job that you've not finished doing yet?
Oh, by no means.
Facing an individual performance, do you actually enjoy it, or is it hell while you're doing it?
No, it's a bit of hell just before it starts. There's a lot of, you know, champing around and trying to get an edge, a right edge, so that you are relaxed, but also have a kick, so that you are going to be alive and also relaxed. It needs a great deal of concentration and hold upon yourself to do this. Sometimes it's a little too quick to really enjoy, I think, but there you are. It's very challenging. It is enjoyable as a whole, but there's too much immediate concentration to really. You can't really completely say, oh well, we can have a bit of a ball, you know.
Looking back on your first 35 years, jolly straight question: are you happy or not?
I've been very fortunate. I think I have everything that that anybody could want to make them happy. But wait a minute, I haven't finished it. I was going to say that the only happiness I could achieve would be to perfect the talent that I have, whatever it may be, however small it may be. That is the whole purpose of it, and that is the whole purpose of what I do.
Some of the newspaper writers who've tried to puzzle out what makes you tick have said that you're the angst man, the anxiety man. Now, have you any notion of what your anxiety is? Do you, in fact, get a kick out of your anxiety?
How do you think so? Anxiety? Would you explain it a bit more?
Well, something appears to me, even at the end of this conversation, to be eating you. You say that your happiness is just ahead of you still. There's something troubling you about the world. I'd like to know what it is.
I wouldn't expect happiness. I don't think that's possible. But I'm very fortunate to be able to work in something that I like. I think to have to work in something that is pleasure is all anybody can ask.
You wouldn't then change your way of life at all?
I'd try and improve it, yes.
Well, improve it, but you'd go on in the same way, getting better at what you're doing.
Yes, and if such a time came that I found that I'd come to the end of what I could develop out of my own ability, or limited however it may be, then I wouldn't want to do it anymore.
Tony Hancock, I wonder if you really get very much out of your triumphs. You've got cars that you don't drive. You've got health, which you tell me is a bit ropey because you find you find it so difficult to learn your lines. You've got money that you can't really spend. You worry about your weight.
I spend the money. I do. I enjoy it.
Well, what I want to put to you as a final question is this: you could stop all this tomorrow if you wanted to. You're rich enough to coast along for the rest of your days. Now,
money is of no account in this.
Well, tell me why you go on.
Because
tell me why you go on as a last answer.
Because it absolutely fascinates me, because I love it, and because it is my entire life.